The USA did not rise naturally. It rose through crises, wars, economic pain, and smart diplomatic calculations. Was the USA born a superpower? Absolutely not. From crippling debt and a brutal civil war to calculated wars against Mexico and buying Alaska from Russia, America's rise wasn't luck, it was strategy. How did a weak, divided nation transform into the global dominator we know today? It's a story of struggle, bloodshed, and smart diplomacy. You won't believe the risks that built this empire. Watch till the end to uncover the true history. Independence and early challenges. Birth of a new nation, 1776. The United States of America became independent in 1776 after the American War of Independence against Great Britain. 13 British colonies on the eastern coast of North America declared that they no longer wanted to live under British rule. Years of heavy taxation, lack of political rights, and unfair laws forced the colonies to rebel. On 4 July 1776, the colonies issued the Declaration of Independence, stating that all people are equal and have the right to life, liberty, and happiness. However, independence did not immediately mean success. The new country was weak, poor, and divided. Economic crises after independence. After independence, the USA faced serious economic crises. Huge war debts, no strong national currency, weak trade system. States followed their own rules. The central government had very little power under the Articles of Confederation. It could not collect taxes or control trade properly. As a result, inflation increased. Farmers lost land. Trade declined. One major crisis was Shays' Rebellion in 1786, when poor farmers protested against heavy taxes and debt. This showed that the country needed a stronger government. The Constitution and political stability. To solve these problems, leaders met in 1787 and created the U.S. Constitution. This Constitution created a strong federal government, divided power into legislative, executive, and judicial branches, gave the government power to tax, raise an army, and control trade. This political stability helped the USA slowly recover from economic crises and move toward growth. Territorial expansion and wars against Mexico. Manifest destiny and expansion. In the 19th century, Americans believed in manifest destiny, the idea that the USA was meant to expand westward across North America. Expansion brought more land, natural resources, and new trade routes. However, expansion was not always peaceful. Wars against Mexico. One of the most important expansions came through wars against Mexico. Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848. The USA fought Mexico mainly over border disputes and expansion ambitions. The American Army defeated Mexico, and as a result, the USA gained huge territories: California, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Utah. This land greatly increased America's size and strength. California later became extremely valuable due to gold, ports on the Pacific Ocean, and trade with Asia. This war played a major role in turning the USA into a continental power. Buying land from Russia, Alaska. In 1867, the USA bought Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million. At that time, many Americans mocked the deal and called it Seward's folly. Later, Alaska proved extremely valuable because of oil, natural gas, gold, and strategic military location. This peaceful land purchase strengthened America's economic and military future. The American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. Causes of the Civil War. The USA soon faced its biggest internal crisis, the Civil War. The main causes were slavery, states' rights, and economic differences between North and South. Southern states depended on slavery, while northern states were industrialized and opposed it. Impact of the Civil War. The Civil War was extremely destructive. Over 600,000 deaths, cities and farms destroyed. However, its results were very important. Slavery was abolished. The USA remained united. The federal government became stronger. After the war, industrial growth increased rapidly. Increase in war force and military power. After the Civil War, the USA focused on building military strength, a modern army and navy, better weapons, large-scale production of arms. Industrialization allowed the USA to manufacture weapons, ships, and railroads quickly. By the early 20th century, the USA had become a strong military power. Diplomatic game and global influence. The USA did not rely only on war. It played a smart diplomatic game, formed alliances, used trade and economic power, influenced other nations through aid. After World War I and World War II, the USA emerged very strong while Europe was destroyed. Through diplomacy and economic help, it increased its global influence. Emergence as a superpower. After World War II, the USA became a superpower due to a strong economy, powerful military, nuclear weapons, global alliances, and influence in international organizations. During the Cold War, the USA competed with the Soviet Union and became one of the two most powerful countries in the world. Conclusion. The journey of the United States from a newly independent country to a superpower was long and difficult. It faced economic crises, a bloody civil war, wars against Mexico, strategic land purchases like Alaska, continuous military expansion, and smart diplomatic strategies. Through struggle, reform, expansion, and diplomacy, the USA transformed itself into a dominant global power. Reconstruction and economic recovery after the Civil War. Reconstruction period, 1865 to 1877. After the Civil War ended in 1865, the United States entered a difficult phase called Reconstruction. The main goals of Reconstruction were to rebuild the southern states, to reunite the nation, and to integrate formerly enslaved people into society. The South had been completely destroyed by war. Farms, railroads, factories, and cities lay in ruins. The economy of the southern states collapsed, causing poverty and unemployment. Economic challenges during Reconstruction. The USA again faced economic crises. The southern economy depended heavily on agriculture. Freed slaves had no land or money. Industrial growth was uneven. To solve this, the government introduced new laws. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment gave citizenship rights. The 15th Amendment gave voting rights to black men. Though these reforms were important, racism and discrimination remained strong, slowing true economic and social progress. Long-term economic impact. Despite early failures, Reconstruction helped strengthen the federal government, expand the national economy, and encourage industrial growth. Railways were rebuilt, industries expanded, and new banking systems emerged, preparing the USA for future economic power. Industrial Revolution and repeated economic crises. Rapid industrialization. From the late 19th century, the USA entered a period of rapid industrialization. Factories, steel mills, oil refineries, and railroads spread across the country. Key industries included steel, Andrew Carnegie, oil, John D. Rockefeller, railroads, and manufacturing. This industrial growth made the USA one of the world's leading economies. Economic crises and depressions. Despite growth, the USA suffered several economic crises, such as the Panic of 1873, the Panic of 1893, and the Great Depression, 1929. These crises caused massive unemployment, bank failures, and poverty. The Great Depression was the worst economic crisis. Millions lost jobs, farms failed, and people suffered hunger. Government response and recovery. President Franklin D. Roosevelt introduced the New Deal, which created jobs, regulated banks, supported farmers, and strengthened the economy. These reforms helped the USA recover and made the government stronger in managing economic crises. Growth of war force and military industry. Military expansion in the late 19th century. As the economy grew, the USA began to invest heavily in its war force, strong navy, modern army, weapon manufacturing. Industrial strength allowed mass production of weapons, ships, and ammunition. World War I and military experience. During World War I, 1914 to 1918, the USA entered the war in 1917. Although late, its involvement changed the balance, supplied weapons, sent fresh troops, and boosted Allied morale. After the war, the USA emerged militarily stronger and economically richer. World War II and super-military power. World War II completely transformed American military power. The largest army in the world, advanced weapons, nuclear bomb development. The war economy ended the Great Depression and turned the USA into a military-industrial giant. Diplomatic game and strategic foreign policy. Early diplomacy. From early years, the USA used diplomacy to protect itself. The Monroe Doctrine, 1823, warned Europe not to interfere in the Americas. Trade agreements, peace treaties. Post-World War II diplomacy. After World War II, the USA used diplomacy more actively, created United Nations, led NATO alliance, and used economic aid. The Marshall Plan helped rebuild Europe and increased American influence. Cold War diplomacy. During the Cold War, the USA used diplomacy to stop communism, supported friendly governments, and used economic and military aid. This diplomatic game helped the USA expand influence without direct war in many regions. Wars, power projection, and global presence. Limited wars and influence. The USA fought several wars to protect interests: the Korean War, Vietnam War, Gulf War. Though not always successful, these wars showed America's global reach. Military bases worldwide. The USA established military bases across Europe, Asia, Middle East. This allowed quick response and global control. Technology, economy, and superpower status. Technological leadership. The USA led in space exploration, computers, the internet, and medicine. The moon landing in 1969 showed American scientific superiority. Economic dominance. The US dollar became the world's main currency. American companies dominated global markets, strengthening economic power. Cultural and ideological influence. American culture spread worldwide through movies, music, education, and media. This soft power made the USA influential without force. Conclusion: from struggle to superpower. The USA's rise to superpower status was not easy. It faced economic crises, civil war, wars against Mexico for land, strategic land purchase from Russia, continuous military expansion, and diplomatic struggles. Through determination, reform, expansion, industrial growth, military strength, and diplomacy, the USA transformed itself into one of the world's most powerful nations. Early foreign policy and survival as a new nation. Keeping distance from European powers. After independence, the USA was surrounded by powerful European empires such as Britain, France, and Spain. These countries still controlled nearby territories and could threaten American freedom. The young nation knew that another major war could destroy it. Therefore, early American leaders followed a policy of neutrality. They avoided European wars, focused on internal growth, and strengthened economy and unity. President George Washington warned Americans not to form permanent alliances. This careful diplomatic approach helped the USA survive its early years. Economic weakness and trade problems. The USA depended heavily on trade, especially with Britain. When European wars disrupted trade, American merchants suffered losses, ports faced decline, and farmers struggled to sell their crops. These trade problems created repeated economic crises, teaching the USA the importance of self-reliance and industrial growth. Westward expansion and Native American conflict. Expansion beyond the original colonies. As the population increased, Americans moved westward. This expansion increased farmland, created new states, and strengthened national economy. However, expansion came at a cost. Impact on Native Americans. Native American tribes were forced off their land through treaties, military force, and laws like the Indian Removal Act. This allowed the USA to control vast lands, but it caused suffering and displacement for indigenous people. The land taken later became important for agriculture, railroads, and industry. The role of railroads and infrastructure. Building a connected nation. Railroads were essential in transforming the USA into a powerful nation. They connected East and West, allowed fast transport of goods, and helped military movement. The government supported railroad companies with land and money, strengthening the national economy. Military advantage. Railroads allowed fast movement of troops, better supply chains, and control over large territories. This infrastructure played a key role in both economic growth and military power. Civil War revisited, deeper impact. Economic division between North and South. Before the Civil War, the North was industrialized. The South depended on agriculture and slavery. This economic difference caused political tension. Southern states feared losing power, while the North wanted national unity and industrial growth. Civil War as a turning point. The Civil War changed the USA forever. It strengthened federal authority, ended slavery, and encouraged industrial growth. War industries increased production of weapons, uniforms, and railroads. This prepared the USA for future large-scale wars. Rise of big business and capitalism. Growth of corporations. After the Civil War, large companies emerged: steel, oil, banking, and manufacturing. These corporations created jobs, increased exports, and strengthened the economy. However, they also caused inequality, leading to labor movements. Economic crises and reforms. Repeated economic crises forced reforms: labor laws, banking regulations, and government intervention. Each crisis made the system stronger and more organized. Naval power and overseas ambitions. Building a strong navy. By the late 19th century, leaders believed that naval power was necessary for global influence. The USA built modern warships, expanded naval bases, and protected trade routes. Overseas territories. The USA gained territories outside mainland America: Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. These territories increased America's global presence and strategic reach. Diplomatic strategy in the Americas. Monroe Doctrine explained further. The Monroe Doctrine declared that Europe should not colonize the Americas, and the USA would stay out of European affairs. This policy allowed the USA to dominate the Western Hemisphere diplomatically and militarily. Economic diplomacy. The USA used trade, investment, and loans to influence neighboring countries, increasing power without direct conquest. World War I: Economic and military effects. Economic boom during the war. World War I increased demand for weapons, food, and supplies. American factories expanded and exports increased. This made the USA economically stronger than Europe. After the war. Although the USA returned to isolation, it controlled global finance, became a major creditor nation, and increased industrial capacity. The Great Depression, a test of survival. Causes of the crisis. The Great Depression occurred due to overproduction, stock market crash, bank failures. Social impact. Millions suffered: unemployment, hunger, homelessness. This crisis tested American democracy and unity. Strengthening the system. The New Deal. Improved infrastructure, strengthened workers' rights, expanded government responsibility. This prepared the USA for future global leadership. World War II. Final step to superpower status. Total war economy. World War II transformed the USA. Factories worked night and day. Women joined workforce. Massive military production. Military dominance. The USA led Allied forces, used advanced technology, developed nuclear weapons. After the war, no other country matched its combined economic and military strength. Cold War. Power through diplomacy and force. Economic competition. The USA used aid, trade, and technology to influence countries and block communism. Military presence. The USA maintained nuclear weapons, overseas bases, and strong alliances. This balance of diplomacy and war force maintained superpower status. Long-term impact of expansion policies. The wars against Mexico and the purchase of Alaska increased territory, added natural resources, improved strategic position. These decisions proved essential for long-term power. Continuous economic growth and innovation. The USA remained strong through education, research, technology, and entrepreneurship. Economic crises continued, but were managed through experience and reform. The USA in the modern world. Even today, the USA remains powerful due to military strength, economic influence, and diplomatic networks. Its rise from a weak colony to a superpower remains one of the most important stories in world history. Final conclusion. Expanded. The United States did not become a superpower overnight. Its journey involved severe economic crises, a destructive civil war, wars against Mexico for territorial expansion, land purchase from Russia, continuous increase in war force, careful and clever diplomatic strategies. Each challenge strengthened the nation. Through struggle, reform, and ambition, the USA transformed itself from a newly independent country into one of the most influential superpowers in the world. Introduction. The United States of America is today one of the most powerful countries in the world. It has strong economic control, advanced military power, and great diplomatic influence. However, this was not always the case. In the late 18th century, the USA was a small, weak, and newly independent nation struggling to survive. Its journey from a group of poor colonies to a global superpower was long, difficult, and full of challenges. This transformation involved economic crises, civil war, territorial expansion, wars against Mexico, land purchase from Russia, growth of war force, industrial development, and smart diplomatic strategies. Each stage shaped the nation and helped it grow stronger. This article explains that journey in simple and clear historical language.
American independence and birth of a new nation. Colonial background. Before independence, the 13 American colonies were under British rule. Britain controlled trade, imposed heavy taxes, and denied political rights. Laws such as the Stamp Act and Tea Act created anger among colonists. The famous slogan, "No taxation without representation," showed their frustration. War of Independence, 1775 to 1783. The colonies fought against Britain in the American Revolutionary War. With determination and some foreign support, they defeated the British Army. On June 4, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was issued. This document declared freedom from British rule, stated basic human rights, laid the foundation of democracy. Problems after independence. Independence did not bring immediate success. The USA faced a weak central government, huge war debts, no stable currency, and poor trade system. The country was politically free, but economically fragile. Early economic crises and political reforms. Articles of Confederation. The first system of government was very weak. The central authority could not collect taxes, regulate trade, raise a strong army. This led to economic instability and unrest. Shays' Rebellion. In 1786, farmers protested against high taxes and debt. This rebellion proved that the country needed a stronger government. The Constitution, 1787. To solve these problems, leaders created the U.S. Constitution. It strengthened federal power, created checks and balances, allowed taxation and defense. This political stability helped control economic crises over time. Westward expansion and territorial growth. Manifest destiny. Americans believed it was their destiny to expand westward. Expansion helped increase farmland, access natural resources, and create new states. Louisiana Purchase. Earlier expansion included buying land from France, which doubled the country's size and strengthened its economy. Wars against Mexico and land expansion. Mexican-American War, 1846 to 1848. One of the most important steps toward becoming a continental power was the war against Mexico. Causes: border disputes, desire for Western land, manifest destiny. Results: the USA gained California, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, Utah. This land provided gold and minerals, opened trade routes to Asia, increased military and economic strength. Purchase of Alaska from Russia. In 1867, the USA bought Alaska from Russia. Importance of Alaska: rich in oil, gas, and minerals, strategic military location, access to Arctic routes. Though criticized at first, this purchase proved extremely valuable and showed America's smart diplomatic decision-making. The American Civil War,
1861 to 1865. Causes: slavery, states' rights, economic differences. Impact: over 600,000 deaths, destruction of the South, end of slavery, stronger federal government. The Civil War was painful, but it unified the nation and strengthened democracy. Reconstruction and industrial growth. After the Civil War, railroads expanded, factories increased, banking system improved. Despite racism and inequality, the economy slowly recovered. Industrial revolution and economic power. Growth of industries: steel, oil, railroads, manufacturing. Economic crises. The USA faced repeated crises: Panic of 1873, Panic of 1893, the Great Depression, 1929. Each crisis led to reforms that strengthened the system. Increase in war force and military strength. Industrial growth allowed the USA to produce weapons, build a strong navy, train modern armies. This prepared the nation for global conflicts. Diplomatic strategies and foreign policy. Monroe Doctrine protected the Americas from European interference. Neutrality avoided early foreign wars. Economic diplomacy used trade and aid to influence other nations. World War I and its effects. Though joining late, the USA supplied weapons, sent troops, strengthened economy. After the war, the USA became a major financial power. The Great Depression and recovery. The Great Depression tested American survival. New Deal created jobs, improved infrastructure, stabilized banks. This showed the government's growing role in economic management. World War II turning point. World War II transformed the USA into a superpower. Effects: full industrial mobilization, technological advancement, nuclear weapons development. After 1945, the USA emerged as the strongest economy and military power. Cold War and global superpower status. The USA competed with the Soviet Union through military strength, diplomacy, economic aid, alliances like NATO. It maintained influence without constant direct war. Cultural, economic, and technological influence. American influence spread through movies, music, education, technology, internet. This soft power strengthened global dominance. Final conclusion. The rise of the United States from a newly independent country to a global superpower was a long and complex journey. It involved severe economic crises that forced reform, a devastating civil war that preserved unity, wars against Mexico that expanded land, purchase of Alaska from Russia that added resources and strategy, continuous increase in war force, smart diplomatic games and alliances. Each struggle made the nation stronger. Through expansion, industrialization, military growth, and diplomacy, the USA transformed itself into one of the most powerful countries in world history.